Welcome into a brand new episode of a whole new ball game podcast featuring Alex Fuse and Vinny Pasquantino. I am Vinny Pasquantino. That good-looking man right there is Alex Fuse. Alex, welcome to Friday. Welcome to Michael Massey Day. How are we doing?
You know, Vinny, it's been a great week. We got rolling all the way back on Monday when we dropped the Jackson Ryan interview. And this week flew by. I don't know if you agree or not with that statement, but this week has been just flying by. And I can't wait till everyone hears this interview with Michael Massey or Massey. Oops.
Massey. It's Michael Massey. That is unbelievable. That is a guest on your show, on our show, and you're going to say his name wrong. It is Michael Massey, everybody. Michael Massey.
All right. But you have to agree with me, though. Like, if you look at it, it looks like Massey.
Nope, looks like Massey to me.
All right. Well, Michael Massey, I can't wait till everyone hears this interview with Michael Massey because he rips you apart. He can't stand living with you. He can't stand it.
It's just one of those things where he's just trying to look good and boost his own following by ripping me. You know, that's the thing is you rip me, people like it, and that's just what he's doing. He's being a smart businessman right now, and I can't hate on that. If that's what's good for business for Michael Massey, that's what's good for business for Michael Massey. I'm not going to hate on that because I completely understand. But he loved living with me. He'll never admit it to the public. He loved it. We had great conversations, and we had another great conversation on this podcast, and I'm pumped for people to eventually hear it here in a few minutes when we let them.
You know, it was honestly a great interview, and it was our first interview together. So let the record show that this was our first interview, so it might be a little bit different from what you might be used to in the future. I guess that's a tease for next week's lineup.
Yep.
But still, I think this was a great chance for us to really get grounded and hit the ground running, especially with someone you know so well like Michael Massey.
Michael Massey, attaboy, Alex. Attababy. Way to say it right this time. But yeah, it was our first interview together, and I think people will see that we had not hit our stride yet when this interview was taking place. I was still sitting on the floor in my old apartment with a fire. No, I had Michael Massey as my background on my television. Now I've got a new background. I'm in a closet at my parents' house in Richmond, Virginia. And also, the Rams are currently killing the Patriots. It's halftime of the Rams-Patriots games. It's 17-3. I had the Rams, so that feels pretty good. But other than that, you know, we're just living. And you and I are finally getting it going. Our interview technique is getting way better, and I'm really excited for people to listen.
I know mine is. I don't know about yours yet, so we got to still figure.
You know, here we go. Just another unnecessary shot at me. But, you know, without further ado, to everybody, this is what you came for. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Massey. Joining us now is my good friend and teammate, Michael Massey. Welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on.
You're so welcome. You're the first person that I thought of to get on this because of all your wise words and wisdom that you bring to the table. And I just wanted everybody to get to know you a little bit more. So welcome. Tell us how you're doing. You're up in Chicago. What's going on up there?
I'm doing all right. I would be doing better if we didn't get embarrassed on Sunday Night Football. I was excited for the Mitch Trubisky era to begin again. Made some bad throws, some bad decisions, some real bad decisions. What was the final score? That 42-25.
You would think as a Bears fan, you would know the answer to that.
I mean, it was so bad. It was so predictable. It was so predictable. My dad stormed out of the room, so the Bears are just continuing to break families apart. But other than that, I'm doing great.
And the Bears just tearing families apart,
just ripping them apart.
It is terrible. But Michael, so we're teammates, and if anybody doesn't know how this season worked, we had two sets of instructs essentially with the Royals. We had one in Kansas City, one in Arizona. Michael and I both went to Kansas City first and then went out to Arizona. But out in Kansas City, we were roommates, so we got to know each other a little bit better. But anyways, off that topic, Michael, how was your year? How did you prepare? What was it like, dealing with everything that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of similar experiences in, this year, and kind of an interesting start. Obviously, we got to go to our first spring training and kind of get a little bit of a taste of what that was like. And obviously, we had to go home due to the virus and kind of, sit in the uncertainty of having to train without knowing if we're going to play or not. So it was a little bit interesting. Early on, I kind of just started lifting. I put down the bat and the ball thinking, this could be a while. So just didn't want to burn out. And then was honestly getting ready to shut it down. And then, like we talked about, we got the email to come back and fought for our lives a little bit there in Kansas City against the pitching, and then got the chance to go to Arizona and play a bit more and get some more bats, which was good. So, definitely grateful to be able to have the opportunities that we did, and be able to get to know teammates like you and some other guys better this year. So it was good season.
Now, when you were taking part of instructs and you mentioned fighting against pitching and the pitchers, you basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're basically seeing the same guys every single day, right?
Yeah, we split up into two teams. So, I mean, what would you say, Ben? There's probably 20 arms there?
Yeah, probably about.
I'd say it was 20 arms. They split them 10 and 10, and I think we played like 20 games. So, you probably got to rotate. There's a starting rotation of like 5 guys that you would see consistently, and then the same arms coming out of the bullpen. But I mean, those guys were pretty good. So again, especially not having many at bats under your belt, it was it was tough. It was a good experience, though. I felt like I learned a lot.
So taking a step back, so you and I played in Burlington, and the way that I'm going to ask questions for this is I'm just going to keep moving back as we go. What was your first professional year like? I know how it was for me, but what was it like for you coming out of Illinois? It was a normal year. It's weird to even think of something being normal, but it was actually a normal year. Take us through that process of what your first professional year looked like.
Yeah, it was different. Coming out of the Big Ten, there's not a lot of guys that are throwing mid to upper 90s. It's more of the high 80s, low 90s type of guys. So just the pitching was way different. Just a whole different style, different approach. For me personally, it started off a little bit slow. I had to deal with the back stuff, and then kept getting jammed by 95-mile-an-hour fastball, so my thumb would blow up. So again, the first month, I bet you I hit a $180, which I've never done before in my life, which was a little bit eye-opening. So, kind of got to work with Rochi a little bit, which was cool, and learn some new things. And I felt like I was able to turn it on a little bit the second half and kind of adjust myself and get used to pro ball. So definitely a big learning experience. Learned a lot about myself as a hitter, as an infielder, a teammate. You're playing with guys you've never played with before. You're playing with guys from different countries, which was a first. So, definitely a big learning experience for me, and I hope to use it going forward.
What was the biggest piece of advice that you learned from either a teammate or a coach that helped you just improve? You basically said that was the first true time you struggled at that level. So what did you get through to get that struggle, basically?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing I learned was mentally, probably just learning from the older guys in the locker room and the coaches of you just can't be emotionally attached to the results of the game. It's my first time playing every single day, and when you get 4 at bats every night, sometimes you're going to go 4, sometimes you're going to go 4 for 4, and there's going to be weeks where you get 1 hit, no hits, and there's going to be weeks where you get 8 or 10 hits. So the season's just way too long to kind of ride that roller coaster. So I felt like that was something, like I said, from the older guys in the clubhouse, and even guys like Benny, just kind of watching how they go about their business, and it's more about the process and taking each day, one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So as my background shows, there's a nice picture of Michael there behind me getting this stretching in. But so you went to Illinois. You are a Fighting Illini, almost alumni, because you're in school still. You're from Chicago, so you're in Illinois. What made you choose Illinois as the school that you wanted to go to?
My dad went there and he played in the 1980s. So it was always a place where, like I said, being from Chicago, it's 2 hours south. So I grew up going to football games down there, going to basketball games, which, by the way, number 5 in the country. Big game tonight against Baylor. Big game.
Yep. We're not sure when we're dropping this yet, but whenever you listen to it, you know that we listened to it when Illinois was going to be playing Baylor that night. So for all you listeners there, you know what's going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, my dad went there, which was a big part. I kind of made a list early on in my high school career where were some schools that, hey, if I got an offer that I liked, I was just going to commit and not try to, play the game of how many offers can I get or, how many schools can I get. So Illinois was on that list and I was lucky enough to get an offer, I think my sophomore year. It just felt like it was a good fit and a good academic school. I was in the business school there. So, kind of the best of both worlds, being able to play the sport I love and be able to study something that I felt like was going to help me in the future.
Now, one question that a lot of people hear, I go to Siena College. It's a D1 school here in upstate New York. But at the end of the fall season, a lot of the teammates, one teammate said, raise your hand if you would have been right here at Siena if it wasn't for baseball. And no one raised their hand. Do you feel like if, let's say, you didn't want to continue playing baseball in college, would you still have went to Illinois, or would you have picked a different school that might have had something that more interests you in your major?
Alex, I was on your Instagram page the other day and I watched the video with you and Jason Romano. And the big thing he said was ask someone questions they've never been asked before. That is one I've never been asked before. I have never been asked where I would have went if I didn't play baseball. And I think for a lot of athletes, I'm sure Benny can attest to this as well. I think it's not many of us think about life after baseball or life without baseball. So that's a good question. I mean, I definitely enjoyed my time there academically. I met a lot of good friends in the business school and was mentored by a lot of really good professors and upperclassmen. So, I looking back on it, I think, I would have definitely went to Illinois. I wouldn't have been smart enough to get in. No, that's for sure. Without baseball. So it may have not been my choice, but I think, God willing, I would have went there.
So what made you, when you were younger, whenever you started playing, what made you grasp on to baseball? Was it just because you were talented? Was it because you fell in love with it before? Like, what made you really want to pursue baseball as a profession?
Yeah, I mean, I think early on, I think my dad just put me in baseball because he played, and I always my dad's my biggest role model, so I always look up to him, and I knew that it was something that he loved and that he played, and so I kind of early on figured, man, well, if it's good enough for him, like I look up to him so much, it's good enough for me. And then I think as the years go on, you begin to just fall in love and like things about the sport that, if you're good at it, you're probably gonna like it a little bit more if you have success. And was lucky enough to have success at a young age. And growing up, I remember watching it before I'd go to school. I'd turn on MLB Network and and see the spring training games going on. And I just dream about, like, man, how cool would it be to not have to go to school and just go play baseball all day. And so again, those small things kind of push you a little bit. And it was just mostly because of my dad. I think was one of the biggest reasons why I fell in love with it.
What was the competition level like for you at high school for ball?
It was extremely good. I was lucky enough to play in the Chicago Catholic League, which I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure you guys know Ed Howard, who just got drafted by the Cubs. He came out of Mount Carmel High School, which is in that same conference. Alec Thomas was a big second-round pick. He's with the Diamondbacks right now. Mark Payton played at St. Rita, which is in that conference in the big league. So, I mean, there's probably, I think there's 8 teams in that conference. In my sophomore and junior year, all 8 of those teams you play each of them twice. All 8 of them had 2 Division I pitchers. So every single game you were going up you're going up against a guy going to Michigan or Arkansas or LSU. So it was an extremely good learning experience and really good competition. So I know it was better than a lot of like the public school options around here. And if I'm being completely honest, one of the reasons why I went to Brother Rice, one of the reasons why I went there was because of the baseball and the competition I knew I would get over my public option.
And I'll follow up to that. So you said because you wanted to go play baseball because if you're good at it, why not, right? Like if you have enjoyment and you're good at it, why not? At what point did you say, okay, I'm good enough to possibly get drafted and play professional baseball? Or did that never come?
I think that probably came around my freshman or sophomore year of high school. I remember having a conversation with my dad. I used to play football and basketball along with baseball in middle school. And, we kind of had a conversation, and with how serious recruiting was, that was kind of the start of, where college baseball started, recruiting freshmen in high school, and the age just kept, seeming like they were recruiting like sixth graders. So I kind of made a decision with my dad. I'm like, well, do I want to be good at 3 sports or do I want to try to be great at one? So I ended up putting down the football, putting down the basketball. In my freshman year of high school, I just played baseball, and I started, kind of training year round. And, I regret it a bit in the sense that I felt like, when you take 6 months off of competing, I was always a slow starter, especially in high school. And I think it had something to do with the fact that I didn't compete for 6 months of the year. And then all of a sudden it's March 1st and you're supposed to turn it on. And the last time you played a game with fans and with umpires or refs was, in the fall. So that, one thing I do regret is not necessarily, I wish I would have played basketball. I would have been smoked in football, but basketball, I definitely wish I played just to kind of, stay in shape and stay in that competitive environment. But going back to your question, I definitely think probably freshman or sophomore year is when I really started to kind of put all my effort toward baseball.
Well, Michael, if at any point you would like to play me one-on-one in basketball, you just let me know and you can get it any time you want.
Vinny, it goes for the same thing as wrestling. Get to 210.
There has been a controversy with Michael and I for anybody so they know the story. We have been trying to fight each other for the past, 3 months, but there is a weight discrepancy because Michael is about 175 pounds and
200.
He's an absolute stick. And I am about 250, an absolute animal, basically, is what they say. I mean, that's just what I've heard. So, body fat index aside, absolute animal is what they say about. I'm a freak. What can I say? But we are trying to get to the same weight class so we can actually have a fight. And Massey can't get up in weight, so it's tough for us to eventually get there because he can't get up to the weight that he needs to.
Well, we've scrapped a little bit in the clubhouse, and I believe so. Clay Dungan, who's also one of our teammates, used to wrestle, and me and Vinny got in the scrap. Now the scrap lasted about a minute.
That's right. Because how did it end?
I tapped out. I was in circle.
That's right. That's all that matters.
That being said, Clay, who wrestled, said I won 5-0. I did take Vinny down. So I think, it was a wrestling match. No one ever said this was a UFC tap out environment.
Well, the next time we're just going to have to get a clarification of the rules. But how about back to the interview, Michael? How about back to the interview? Don't get sidetracked. If you, Michael Massey, and I'm sure you've been asked this because you're a professional baseball player and it's a cool thing to do, and it's almost in sense given back a little bit. If your high school coach asked you to come back and rally the troops per se of your high school team, like give them some advice, anything, if you were asked to go speak to them, what would be, and say that all their goals were to play professional baseball, every single one of them in there, that's what they wanted to do. What would be the biggest piece of advice that you would give a group of high schoolers?
I would honestly, alongside, kind of what I was just talking about with Alex, play multiple sports. One, I think it helps your ability to compete. And I really think guys that begin to specialize at a young age struggle with, maybe turning it on sometimes when the lights are on because they just haven't done it in so long. So I think competing is a skill, and the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So that would be one.
Let me ask you a follow-up just real quick on that because of what you just said. So you said that you regret a little bit not playing basketball. Knowing what you know now, I mean, you are a professional baseball player. Do you think it was a mistake not to play basketball, or do you just kind of regret it in the back of your mind a little bit?
No, I don't think it was a mistake because I've been able to recognize maybe where I fell short by not playing basketball. And then just in my off-season training, I'm advanced enough now where I feel like I'm aware of that and I train to take care of that. So like when it is March 1st and spring training, I'm ready to go.
Gotcha.
But when I was 18, I didn't necessarily know until the first day. And then I'm like, wow, I felt like I was way behind. But yeah, looking back on, I mean, again, I'm not complaining with how it turned out. But yeah, it is something maybe I wish I would have done a little bit. But I would say the second piece of advice would be just don't put so much pressure on yourself. I think especially how competitive the baseball world is today, I think everything's about the next level. It's always about, can I get to college? And then when I'm in college, can I, become all conference? And then can I get drafted? And can I be a pro player? And can I make it to the MLB? And it's always about getting to the spot where you're not at. And when you do that, I feel like you forget to enjoy the journey and like actually where you're at. So that would be my advice would just be, don't look ahead so much and don't put so much pressure on yourself. Because I think that's where pressure comes from, is when you're always trying to get to the next level. Or if you just go out and kind of enjoy where you're at and enjoy the teammates that you're currently with, I think it makes each day better.
It's funny because this time last year, I was just telling someone this yesterday, it might have been you, Vinny, I can't remember. And I said, this time last year, I was so anxious. I said, I was 19. I didn't have anything lined up for the summertime. And I wanted something big, exciting, whatever. And then that's when I landed, the Burlington Royals gig. And I remember going back to school and telling my friends, I think I jinxed the whole world. I said, everything in the next 8 to 9 months, I'm going to finish the semester. I'm going to go down to North Carolina, and then I'll come back, to school in September. And then we'll go from there. I have nothing to worry about. Well, everything that I said at that moment in time in mid-January, none of that happened. Like I didn't finish the semester on campus. I didn't end up going to North Carolina. I actually transferred colleges. So I'm not even at the same school anymore, right? Like everything I said, what was set and I wasn't going to worry about changed. So I think in your case, you can't really be so lost into what's next because you can't really control it. Am I right?
Exactly. I was just going to say, you can't control any of that. That's just like life taking, my dad would always say, we make plans and God laughs at us. It's just one of those things like you think, but you don't, you have no idea. So I think when you start, and people talk about like, where does pressure come from? I think pressure and fear and all those things that drive, doubt, all those things that drive athletes back, it's never from the current moment. It's always from like, oh, am I going to be good enough then? Am I going to be able to get to the big leagues? What if I get cut? What if I don't get a hit? And it's like, all that stuff is not, it's not current. It's not present. So that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great experience for you, I feel like. And I can tell you, I've had numerous amounts of those experiences. So
what was one that sticks out most that really puts you to live in the moment, to live in the present?
Wow. I mean, honestly, the coronavirus one for sure. I mean, I think that's it. Everyone's experiencing that. But before that, I would say, I struggled with my throwing my sophomore year of college. Made some error, just some bad throws, and was always like, didn't kind of not like yips, but a little bit like indecisiveness when I would throw. And I was always afraid, like, oh man, I don't want to make that short little throw, and I would worry about it, and I try to practice it a million times. And I think it came up. That was the year I won the Gold Glove, and I made 0 errors. And I was always worried about making the throw to first base. And it was a reminder to me, I worried about something that never happened. I spent all this time getting angry, like fearing it, trying to visualize the great throw or the great play, not screwing up. And it never came up in the game. And I wasted so much energy. And I missed so many moments because I was worried about what could have happened as opposed to, it never let's just worry about right now. And if it happens, we'll deal with it when it happens. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. but I wasted so much time and energy thinking about it all the time. So that was just one for me. But I mean, like I said, I got plenty of those.
Wow, what an answer, Michael! What an answer.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
No, I mean, wow, very enlightening. I'm all right, but all right. Moving on into this off season, Michael. After the year that we just had, after the 2 months of instructs, after we just got home a few weeks ago. What is your plan towards next season? Like, obviously, you can't plan too much because nobody really knows what's going to happen. But what is your, when you look at next year at this time, when you look back on 2021, what do you want to see, improvements that you've made in your life, in your baseball game? Like, what do you want to see? What do you want to look back and see at the end of next year?
Physically, I want to develop more. I think the one thing I always look at is, can I fill out the uniform? I look at second basemen in the big leagues, and they're all 200, 205, 210 pounds. And I think at the end of next year, I'll be 23 years old. Like, it's time to start looking the part is one. And then number two, I think is just, it's kind of probably something that I know everyone chases, is just, how can you mentally turn yourself into the big leagues? How can you mentally be prepared to be ready to get a call and be like, okay, I'm gonna play for the Kansas City Royals, instead of, I think it's always like, oh, well, when I get there, I'll figure it out type of stuff. But what can I do today and what can I do tomorrow to make sure mentally that I'm prepared, that if, like I said, if I'm lucky enough to get a call within the next couple of years, that I'm ready to play in the big leagues.
So this is going to be a big question, right? And it kind of goes back into the one that, we talked about earlier, but how do you define success as a professional baseball player? Is it, gaining the few extra pounds, or is it moving on up throughout, the organization and eventually making an MLB debut? Like, how do you determine success in your opinion?
I think and we talked about this briefly in instructs. It was more of in a hitting sense. But I think it kind of translates to the whole game is, can you follow your process without being emotionally attached to the result? Through 500 at bats or through 162 games, can you show up every day with emotional stability and be the same guy, whether you go 0 for 4 or 4 for 4, and just trust your process? You just create a process that you think works, show up every day, stick to it. Whatever happens. And like I said, it's way easier said than done. It's easy to get caught up in the statistics when you're 0 for your last 15, or, the team's not winning. But like I said, I think that's success for me, is, can I show up every day, go through my process and truly trust it throughout the course of the year?
Are you a big stats guy or no?
I don't like to think I am, but I'm also not going to sit here and lie and say that I'm not, I'm not pulling out the calculator every once in a while when I'm 0 for my last 20, saying I got to go 10 for my next 5 to be hitting 220.
To add on to that question, because because I know how I am, and I think you know how I am. Are you more of a stats guy when you're going good or going bad?
That's a good question.
I would say I'm a stats guy when I am going good and going bad. I'm not a stats guy when I'm in the middle. If I'm 3 for my last 10.
Not answer my question.
No. I'm answering it right now. No, if I'm 3 for my last 10, I'm okay, I'm not looking up the stats. If I'm 0 for 10 or I'm 8 for 10, I'm looking at whoa, what it, because any drastic change, yeah, I'm looking at.
Well, it's such an interesting game because it's a team sport within individual results, and the team could win regardless of you going 20 for your last 20 or 0 for your last 20. And it might not have anything to do with what you did, because you hit with nobody on base and you hit a single every time or something like that. It's so weird. You could be winning and you could be playing terrible, or you could be going off and losing every single game. So it's such a weird, how to go off of Alex's question. How do you remove yourself from your individual statistics to just be happy? At what point does that happen where it's all about the team and not about yourself? Is it a little bit of both? How do you remove yourself almost out of your own head just so you can go play and try to get a win?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's just a maturity thing. I really do. I think it's hard to, I've never been a guy that's believed in like don't listen to the negative talk, or don't care what your average is. I mean, when you play every day, like your average is on the scoreboard in the stadiums that you play at, like you see it. So I personally think the worst thing to try to do is just like hide from it. And I mean, I think the best way to do it is to know what you're doing, but still find a way. Like, yeah, I know I'm hitting 210, but I'm still going to find like, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
As opposed to like just trying to completely avoid it. I feel like you're just running from the problem.
Right. Sometimes when you're in that, that really bad stage, you can find any positive, because if you go 1 for 4, that average still increases a little bit. Maybe I hit 3 balls hard today. That I'll take it over yesterday when I struck out 4 times. It's just such an interesting thing.
Yeah, I remember I had a day last year at Pulaski. I was hitting 208, and the guy from the stands goes, 208? That's it? And I went 1 for 5 that day with 3 Ks, and I was hitting 210 the next day.
That math doesn't make any sense.
1 for 4 with 3 Ks.
Yeah,
yes,
come on. Michael,
I'm not a
Michael Massey, not a math guy.
I'm not.
He said he needs a calculator, when he does it. So he'll take out
I'm not in the back of the bus like writing equations with paper and pen.
I mean, I can do that quick math. If you're hitting 208 and you go 1 for 5, I think it's going to drop. I'm pretty sure 1 for 5 is 200, and I think that's lower than 208. But so that's one thing I learned today is you're not a math guy, and you do need your calculator when you're doing division.
Well, if you just learned that today, then you do not know me well, Vinny. And our time spent together in Kansas City was a complete waste of time.
I guess I have to ask. I was gonna wait for this one for the Fast Five, but what was one of your biggest pet peeves of living with Vinny? Because when he told me that you two lived together, for what was it, over a month, right?
Yep.
So what was one thing that Vinny did that just sent you through the roof?
I got 2 things. One, the guy snores like an animal. Especially when he's on his back. Oh my goodness. Mouth wide open. Just looks like a seal over there. And then number 2, Vinny wakes up at like 4:30 in the morning.
Alex, what did I say? He asked me this question.
I asked, so we talked yesterday, and I asked Vinny, I go, well, what do you think Michael would say your biggest pet peeves, would be living with him? Like what he was trying to predict what you would say. And he said 2 things, snoring and how early he wakes up.
Alex, I got a story for you. It had to be 4 in the morning. And it might have been on the off day, honestly. It might have been Saturday night. And Vinny gets up at 4 in the morning, walks around his bed, goes to the bathroom, steps on a water bottle, and just like is not graceful with it at all. Like, I mean, he probably stepped on it 5 times, honestly, on his way to the bathroom. And I woke up at 4 in the morning on the off day, and here's this freaking guy walking to the bathroom, coming out, probably steps on it again. I don't know if Vinny remembers that, but
yeah, it was an accident. I was trying to be quiet.
It didn't seem like one.
Stepped all over you're right. I did it on purpose. My goal for that off day was wake Michael up as soon as possible, and that's what I did. I got him up.
Here's the thing, Alex. I wouldn't put it past him that was his goal.
I like talking, so I wanted him to wake up so we could hang out a little bit. That was it. We were rebuilding the Bears on Madden 18 on his PlayStation, and I wanted to continue rebuilding the Bears.
And do you remember the name of my quarterback?
Michael created a quarterback and wanted to make him a legit quarterback, and he named him with the most basic name he wanted. He wanted a very basic name for his quarterback, and he named him Justin Thomas. So I say, the golfer, Massey? He had no idea who I was talking about. It's unbelievable. The guy is top in the world, and he has no clue who he is.
No, because he was the superstar quarterback that's going to rebuild the Bears. The guy was
he better show up quick.
He was Alex. He was 6'4", 220. The guy could move, escape the pocket, cannon for an arm.
Very similar to how Michael would play quarterback.
Yes, exactly how I picture it. Needless to say, we were 6-1. I decided to quit the franchise and start another one. Much like Vinny. Vinny rebuilt the Jets like 6 times. Finally, with himself as a left-handed quarterback playing. Normally, he would just he would upload the draft class from college. Like I think one year he did it with Trevor Lawrence and he just gave up on it. And then he had Zach Wilson, or I think it was Zach, or is that his name from BYU?
That's right.
And then finally, it was just the left-handed gunslinger, Vinny Pasquantino.
That's right. I had to make a big phone call. I had to get the left arm hot, and I came up into New Jersey and just dominated with the New York Jets.
Out of Old Dominion.
That's right. That's right. Well, Michael, we have a segment that we don't have a name for yet, but we're going to ask 10 rapid fire questions to you. Alex is going to go first. Then I'm going to go. Then Alex is going to go. So get your brain ready because we've got 10 questions for you that we want you to answer as fast as possible.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
No math
First
problems,
one. Well, maybe. We'll see. First one. What is your least favorite unwritten rule in baseball?
Oh, Vinny, you'll love this one. That you can't bunt when you're down.
Oh, man. Don't even get me started with him. This guy, Alex,
It's
one
10
time
rapid
last
questions.
year in Burlington.
Tell a story.
I'm going to tell the story because I know I'm ruining the segment, but
The idea is it's however long it takes to end. This could be the podcast.
Yeah.
We're down by 6 or 7.
6.
And we're down by 6. Nobody on base. There's
That's
2
right.
outs or something.
No.
Top
It's
of the
first
last
and
inning.
second.
Oh, sorry. First and second. The guy lays down a bunt. What are we doing?
Background information. Alex, I was 0 for 4. I had struck it out 3 times, much like I did last year.
That guy.
No. I was just I swung at the first pitch. So I went up there with the intention to hit, and it was a fastball right down the middle, and there was a hole in my bat. And it went right through the hole, and I said, you know what? It's just not my day. So instead of trying to swing and striking out for the 4th time and hurting the team, the third baseman was playing in left field. I laid down a bunt. I beat it out. We had bases loaded, and I think we only lost the game by 3.
Wow. Were any runs scored?
Yeah, that inning. Yeah, we put up like 3 runs. I scored that inning from first base. Yeah, I'm just trying to help the team.
So by you bunting, definitely helped.
But like we were down, like I just don't like the unwritten rule. Like, why can't if I'm down by 6 and I'm not swinging it well, and you're giving me the bunt, you're giving me an easy way on base. Why wouldn't I take it?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's your job as the defense to play. If you don't want me to bunt, play in.
I'm on Michael's side, Vinny. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, Michael, my turn.
Don't hate him because he can get down to first base faster than you. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Michael Massey, how many stolen bases did you have at Instructs?
4.
Oh, I didn't know you had any, to be honest, because you're just very forgettable, I guess, to me.
Because Vinny had 1.
I had one. No big deal. But, okay, Michael, on to my question. Dog or cat?
Dog.
Okay.
Bear the dog.
Who is one of your favorite teammates from college that you wish you could play pro ball with?
A kid named Jackson Douglas, who I roomed with, is a Navy SEAL right now. Yeah. Super good teammate. Tough guy.
Backpack or duffel bag?
Duffel bag. You should know that from Kansas City.
Did you know that, Vinny?
Yes, I did know that. I just wanted to make sure.
Do you drink coffee? So how do you drink your coffee? Like, how do you make your coffee? I'm a big coffee guy, so.
Yeah, no, I'm coffee with. I've taken out the added sugar. I use the almond milk creamer, but I mean, there's a little bit of sugar in that, so I can't say I'm totally sugar free, but just coffee with cream. What about you? Do you put sugar in? Or are you a black guy? Just straight black?
Every now and then I'll just go black, but a lot of times, like today, I stopped at Dunkin' on my way to school. I got medium iced coffee, cream, and 2 Splenda. That's usually what I go with. I mean, if you're paying for, what was that?
If you're paying for it at Dunkin', you gotta get the cream and the sugar.
Right. And I cut out though every day I would get like mocha swirl or French vanilla, but for the last month and a half, one day they forgot to put it in, and I'm like, wow, this actually isn't that bad, and I just cut that out. So, gets rid of the extra sugar. So,
well, I had to start doing like the when I first started drinking coffee, I had to do like the caramel mocha latte just because like I couldn't take the coffee taste.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like now I'm a veteran, and I can't handle any of that stuff like the hazelnuts or I can do French vanilla. It's like the only flavor.
What is the most important position in baseball?
Second base.
Selfish.
No, I take that back. First base. A good first baseman who can save all of my errors.
I like that answer, Michael.
That's a very important position.
I'm going to ask that to pretty much every single guest, and you're off to a very good start for guest of the year so far. That is a great start towards. We have a panel of 2 that votes on guest of the year at this current moment, and you may or may not have my vote.
Hey, an infielder's only as good as his first baseman.
Could not agree more.
What would be a dream car of yours to drive?
This is going to sound not super luxurious, but I'm staring out at my neighbor's all blacked out Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Yeah.
I think that's a good looking car. It's a manly car.
Mm-hmm. I think someone's listening. I think that's going to be my Christmas present. Like
come on.
Jeep. Not. It's just a Grand Cherokee. I think that's
just a Grand Cherokee, Michael.
It's just a beautiful Grand Cherokee that I've been dying.
Well, your
to
dream
purchase.
car. It's either
that is.
I think my ultimate dream car though would be like a all black, whatever year it is, Jeep Wrangler. I think that even though I don't do off roading, it's just a nice looking car.
I agree. I like that. I like Jeep. I just like the brand.
Yeah,
it's a good question.
You've told him he's had 2 good questions so far, and you
three,
haven't said that.
Three.
You haven't said that to me once. Actually, Alex complimented a question of mine, but you haven't yet, Michael.
Actually, because you asked me a question that you knew. Is that a good question? Asking someone a question that you know?
It's for the listeners, not for me. I'm trying to get everybody to get to know Michael Massey a little bit. What's your middle name?
You can do both.
Tell everybody.
You can do both. Anthony.
Michael Anthony Massey, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. All right, my question number 4. Peanut butter or jelly?
Peanut butter. Good question, Vinny.
Thank you.
Don't buy into that. All right, and then I think this is this my 5th one?
This is your 5th one. This is your 5th one. Also, we know Alex, not a math guy.
Not a math guy at all. I will say though, if I have a baseball scorebook, I'll be fine. But not with this stuff. I would say, this is a good one. I just made this up on the spot. If you had to reach out to someone to start a podcast, who would you want to be the co-host of that podcast with you?
Ooh. Well, am I going for ratings or am I going to have fun?
It depends.
Because if I'm going for ratings, I'm going Bobby Witt Jr.
Wow.
For obvious reasons.
Wow.
I mean, and honestly, if I'm going,
you can pick anybody in the world, and for ratings, you pick Bobby.
Oh, it's not within the organization, like a teammate.
No, anyone.
No one ever.
Okay.
No one ever brought that up.
Let me change it up. Anyone that's in your phone contacts.
In my phone contacts. Well, that even narrows it more. Oh wow! In my phone contacts.
Come on.
Well, I got
somebody name drop somebody cool. Come on.
In my phone contacts. My girlfriend.
Do you want to shout her out? Do you want to say her name so everybody knows?
Yeah, my girlfriend Jane DeGerald, Vinny.
Well, ladies, you heard it here. Michael Massey, not on the market. And my last question, it's a big one. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix, because I'm not rich enough to have Hulu.
Oh.
And I don't pay for my Netflix either. I have a friend's account.
Oh, you have people that pay for your Netflix. That must be nice, Michael.
Hopefully Netflix doesn't subscribe to the show.
Well, you just said Netflix was your pick, so maybe they'll hear this and give you a free subscription.
Or maybe they'll just boot me and whoever's account I'm hacking off of.
That's a very good point. Good answers, Michael. I've written these down.
Vinny, obviously not a common sense guy. Maybe a math guy, but not a common sense guy.
Book smarts, Michael.
Yeah.
I've written down your answers, and if we have you back as a 2-time guest, which means you will get a T-shirt if you come on as a 2-time guest of the whole new ball game podcast. So you would be fine for you, but we're going to have other guests that have been on the show before I was a co-host. So those
we don't talk about
twice. So
this is a whole new ball game.
Also, going back to my podcast idea, I mean, like, even for fun, I think I'd have Bobby on. Talking about llamas. He's a big llama guy.
Yeah. Bobby's favorite animal is a llama for literally everybody because nobody knows that because Michael did not explain. So
I knew that. I knew that, but I mean, yeah. But not everyone's going to know that. All
I know is it wouldn't be Vinny, Alex. So I don't know how you do it.
That's good.
But it wouldn't be Vinny.
I'm firmly committed to this, so I'm not
good.
I'm not a free agent, Michael. I'm committed.
Good.
Well, I really hope that I don't regret that, and that Vinny does bring in some ratings. And I probably could have got a little bit more of Bobby, but it's fine.
I just do what I can. That's all I can do.
Good, Vinny. Good.
So, Michael, last question before I kick you off this, not let you go or anything, before we kick you off.
Okay.
If you could hit and learn from any hitter in baseball over the past ever, so dead or alive, who would you want to have to hit with?
It's got to be Ted Williams.
Ted Williams is your guy. Explain, Michael.
I mean, what did he hit 406 or 411 or something? I mean,
pretty good baseball player.
Yeah, pretty good baseball player. We did not mention Cordell Patterson on here. Good football player. Just want to get that out there. But I think it's very interesting. I always read books about like how he was like talking about being on plane, but like way before anyone even knew that was a thing. So I think he was just so much ahead of where the game was at that time. That I think it would be interesting to kind of pick his brain and see what he thought like years ago and see if it's relevant to today. I mean, there's so many good options. But that one sticks out to me just because of his ability to hit for average power.
Wow.
I would just like to let the record show he did not pick you, Vinny.
Mm-hmm. I thought about it. I did think about it.
You know what? That's okay because we get to work together all the time anyway. So
yeah.
But Michael, thank you for taking your precious time out of your day to come speak with us. We're honored to have you on as a guest. And that's all I got. So to everybody out there, we'll see you next time.
Can you say that not so sarcastically?
Alex, why don't you finish up? Why don't you finish us up?
Can you genuinely thank me?
Michael, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Vinny.
To wrap it up, I'll give you something, Michael, that he won't say or let you do, but where can everyone follow you on social media and be sure?
That's good. I actually had that written down. What are your social medias? And I totally forgot to ask. So, Michael, boost yourself. Come on.
I only have an Instagram, and it's mmass6. It's a very boring page. You're going to get a lot of me and my girlfriend. You're going to get a lot of inspirational Bible quotes, but not a lot of great content. I know it's not my strong suit.
Blue check mark. He is a blue check mark, so it's perfect. He's verified. Yes. You know it's him. So that's good to go.
And my girlfriend hit me with she goes, "You're a professional baseball player, and I have more followers than you," the other day. And that got me.
How many followers does she have?
I mean, she's got to be over 2,000.
Oh wow!
But she put me in my place. It was nice. It was it was uncalled for, but it was definitely a good comment by her, Really got under the skin. Vinny's good at that. No response, Vinny?
No response because I don't even want to, because we all know how I can get under your skin. So, no big deal.
But thank you again, Michael, for coming on. And this was a lot of fun, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, Michael, thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you so much, Michael. It was a pleasure.
I enjoyed. This was the best day of the week so far, just because I got to see your face, Vinny, and talk to Alex. More so talk to
I
Alex,
appreciate
but
that.
you know.
Take what you can. What did we think, everybody? That was Michael Massey. This is also our first outro to any episodes. We've gotten some feedback. We need to end the show more properly, and that's what we're here to do. So let us know. Tweet at us, DM us on Instagram, Facebook us. Tell us how this interview went. We need the feedback. We love the feedback. Criticize me. Well, maybe don't criticize Alex too much. He has a hard time taking it. He's not as good as taking it. So criticize me. Just blow up Alex. It's what he needs. And just let us know how he did. We were pumped to give you this interview. Alex, what do you got?
I love the interview. I would like the record to show still that I am not convinced that Michael Massey liked anything about living with you. I think also I asked him a question he's never been asked before. So when you do something like that, and I asked him about if he ever would consider going to another college, if he didn't figure out that he was talented enough to play baseball and continue his career. And he never said that to you. So I think that is something that, it's a win for me and a major loss for you.
Well, I'll take that loss. That's fine with me. You can have that win any day of the week. And I'm 100% okay giving that win to you because we all know my questions are better. And just because he had never been asked that one before doesn't really mean anything. We've both been there where we ask questions that somebody else hasn't been asked before. And I'm just excited that you'll go into this weekend with the win. And that's very exciting for you.
I'll go into this weekend with more wins than the Jets have in the last 3 years. Okay.
Well, what happens after this weekend? When we report back Monday morning, we'll see. We'll see what happens if we're still defeated. I don't even know what the word for that is. We haven't won a game, so we're still defeated. But on tap Monday morning, Monday, December 14th, special guest, episode 4 for you and I believe it will be episode 38 for the podcast. We have a 2-time guest coming on, another one. His name is Bryce Windham, ladies and gentlemen. Monday morning, December 14th. Get excited. Bryce Windham coming on the podcast. Have a good weekend.